Hi, this is David Odell, the Odell Complete Concrete. I lost the dig out footage, lost my whole camera basically, but I got some good stuff here. These glass panels you see here is from old slider doors. We get them for about $10 each. The place that puts the new slider doors in salvages these, and then you can get them for $10 a piece. And this is going to be the sides of the greenhouse that's going to be built here. This is a raised stem wall, 8-inch wide with a 1-foot footing at the bottom. We've got 2 rebars going in here, one top and bottom 1/2 inch. The way this greenhouse is going to work, it's going to get a 2x6 pressure treated plate all the way around it. You'll see where that's going to sit as we get into this, as we get it formed up. Yeah, I had some good head cam footage here that you can see I was wearing it at this point, but where it went after that, nobody knows. So that existing shed that's right next to it, we're digging as close as we can get to it. And what's going to happen, he's going to punch a hole through the side of that building because he's going to set a swamp cooler in that building. And he's going to vent through this building and into the greenhouse to put moisture and cool it. The reason he's venting it through the other building first, so he doesn't get that direct air pressure on the plants, more of a gentle airflow. But this is all native soil, and you can see it's just some river bottom, old river bottom. This was once, before the Colorado had all the dams, the Hoover Dam, the Davis Dam. This was, a couple miles wide river. So this was all underwater at one time. So it's really great soil for growing. You just need a lot of water. We're going to be using 2x12s, and we are matching the floor level of that little red building there, the red shed. So that's our elevation that we're matching up to, and we're going to go parallel with that. So the first form we set on the back, we just ran a string line along the side of that back of building. And then what we did was we did a 6-8-10 on that right back corner. And then everything else was just 12 foot 2 wide and 21 feet 2 inches long. The reason they're kind of an oddball measurement because when he laid out his glass panels, that's the measurement he needed to make it fit without having to modify one of those glass panels. So for the most part, I'm using steel stakes. I've got 4-foot and 3-foot round steel stakes. All these 2x12s have been used for quite a few jobs. This isn't the first one. So they do have some crowns and some bows in them. So we got to look at each one before we drop it and know exactly what we're going to have to do with it. We ran out of 2x12 at one point, so we went with 2x8, and then we underpinned with 2x4. So we still got that 12-inch wall. Basically, these are just suspended in the air, these 2x12s and 2x8, 2x4 combos. So the concrete's going to mushroom out from under it and give me a full 12x12 on the bottom and then a stemmy coming up. So here's kind of a nice little look at it. This is actually the second day, so I had to rig up another head cam. I had three cameras, so now I'm down to 2. But it's fine, it worked out. That inside form we had just set there, at the very end of it, it's level with the outside form, but in the middle, it's crowned, so it's a little bit higher than the outside form. That's just what you have to work with when you're working with lumber, crowns and things of that nature. Not perfect stuff. the way I'm going to hold this all together is my steel stakes, as I'm driving these, what I'm trying to do is space them about 30 inches apart, maybe 3 feet. And I also want to make sure I have a steel stake directly across from one another, inside and out, because I can just wrap some tie wire around those steel stakes. And that's what's going to hold the forms from blowing out. Wood stakes would work too. If you wanted to use wood and just put some tie wire across the top, that'll hold, but steel stakes are stronger. But I have did it with wood and it seems to work just as well. Here's a 2x8. I ran out of 2x12, so that'll get underpinned. So there'll be no bottom in this. It's just going to be built on the stem wall. It'll just remain dirt. That way when they water their plants that are going to be in here, they'll just naturally drain into the ground. You don't see it yet, but he's going to also put a water spigot on the inside of this. He'll probably do that over the weekend after we get this formed up, so that when we come back to make the pour, the water will be in here ready to go. I may end up building one of these myself. And this is very close to where I live, close to my house. Just it's on the same street at the other end. So I'm going to see how well this works out for him. Keep in contact with the owner here. And if it works out well, I'm going to probably end up doing the same thing, because the cost is pretty reasonable, especially when you have all these glass panels for $10 each. Makes a good wall and get plenty of sunlight. And then do some corrugated plastic on the top that allows the light to go through, and you're pretty much all set. This will work in any climate, really. Some climates you may not have to pump moisture into it or cool it. You may have to heat it. I have my rebar bender here, and I'm bending it at a perfect 90-degree corner. I got plenty of space, and since it's an 8-inch wall, so even if it was a slow round 90, it would still fit in this corner. But I'm making it nice and crisp since I do have the rebar bender. Here's how I hang the rebar. I'm just going to suspend it off of my top ties, hang all the rebar down. Right now I just had to add a couple stakes so that they were across from one another so I could get tie wire around them. There's a lot of weight on these forms at 12 inches high when the concrete fills it up, especially when you're dropping it out of a chute, because this is going to be a chute pour, and it's challenging to get down here where we're at. Now I'm going to show you that drive coming down the hill, getting down into this lowland. Well, this is early morning, and I think it's feeding time normally. So one of the hens flew over the fence and got out of the chicken coop. I did get a dozen of eggs out of this deal too, by the way, and they're tasty. I had some brown eggs. I got some green ones, some all different colors. They all tasted the same, but it kind of looked like Easter, but without having to color them. Here's coming down the hill. The concrete's up here at the top. I was just asking him right now at this point, do you want to walk down the hill just to see if it looks feasible? like you can get down there. He said, no, let's just go for it. So I went first and kind of showed him the route to take. So he had to come outside of that driveway a bit to get around that tree. But it wasn't too bad at all. And this particular truck is all-wheel drive. It has 6 wheels under power, so it gets through this silt, sand, what other conditions you might have. It'll power through it. Oh, I just found that piece of metal in the scrap pile, and I bent it to elongate my chute. My stakes were a little too high for my liking because the chute was almost catching on them, and these stakes were about another 8 inches shorter, and I could have had more slope on that chute, and then it would have been a lot easier, I think, to tailgate. But all the forms are all oiled up. There's that water line. I put a little dirt over it so it wasn't in contact with the concrete itself coming across the footing. As we're pouring out, we're throwing dirt up against the bottom to try to hold that concrete down. But we're going to strip this same day. And I think it took about two and a half hours before we started stripping this. And we did face it as well. We're going to face the whole thing inside and out, give it a nice shiner. I had one of my guys, one of the old guys used to work for me in Cali about 6 years ago. You might recognize it. He was in a couple of my early videos way back. He moved back to Washington State. By coincidence, he happened to be driving through town, didn't know I lived here. He stopped by and wanted to come out. So here he is, Trevor right here on the left, getting a little practice in. There's the owner, Ted. So I didn't use a vibrator on any of this. I just hit it with the hammer a lot on the sides, inside and out, to really consolidate the concrete. And you'll see how well that worked when we start stripping the forms. No rock pockets whatsoever. This is just a 2500 PSI, 1 inch minus. They call it their standard. It's a good mix. So Eric the chef is digging out the concrete that mushroomed up on the bottom of that 2x12. That way we can strip it real easily without damaging the stem wall. Some of the top wood ties are coming off. The wire ties across from stake to stake. That'll come off last. Here's the 10-inch anchor bolts going in. I'm putting them about 1 foot off of the corner each direction. And then I'm going about every 5 foot. So we have kickers on the outside form because once we got the outside straight and held, then the whole inside form doesn't need kickers because it's held off of the outside form. We are edging this. We're putting a 1/2 inch edge inside and out of the stem wall. The reason for that is it just looks better for the time being, although you'll probably never see it once the plate gets screwed down. But it does make it nice to strip. It helps you level that top out. There's some of the tie wire I cut off, and then it was kind of sticking up, so I had to keep pushing it down right there. Oh, this concrete also has fiber mesh in it. We do have fiber mesh in this as well. And the nice thing about fiber mesh, because we're stripping this thing pretty early so we can face it, we're not going to get the chunks coming off with the form. It's not as likely to sag, droop, so we can get on it a little earlier than you could if you didn't have that fiber. We had 5 yards of concrete. I think he probably had a yard left when he left out of here. Yeah, this is about 2 hours later. Now all the uprights, stakes, and wires coming off. So at this point, it's pretty much standing by itself. Now, I could have done a monolithic pour on this and poured the slab in the middle at the same time, because the bottom of those 2x12s are all level. So if you poured the concrete flatwork, the bottom of the 2x12, you could have did it all in one pour. Then you'd have a massive catch basin. But see how clean that form came off? No need in using a hand float. It's just trowel work only. This end form was a little hard getting off, but there it is. Just a little trowel work, and it looks real nice. All the 2x12s and lumber, steel stakes, all getting stripped and loaded same day. So we could potentially actually go right directly to the next job and start setting up and not have to come back here. The way I formed the inside forms is I log cabined it. So the end forms, like if I had went full length on the inside and they were full length, you wouldn't have got them out without damaging your stem wall. But since I log cabined it, I was able to pull everything out without putting any pressure on the stem walls and potentially cracking it. So after we trialed it all out, Trevor wanted to use his hand edger to touch up the edges for the final and hold the trowel horizontally. But I said, hey, why don't you just try this, top tool? And he gave that a shot. He go, wow, that's much easier than running an edger and a hand trowel combo. But here is the next day, a little close up of it. We did spray this down heavily with curing compound, so there's no need to water it. And stayed nice and straight, very level, because we shot this in with a laser level initially for our string lines. We just left it smooth. I mean, you could do a broom on the face and top if you wanted to, but there's really no need. Broom textures and stuff like that, that's just to make a non-slip. This isn't an area where you're going to be walking. All right. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions concerning your future project or ongoing project, get me on consultation through my website at Odell Complete Concrete. Thank you. Bye.